Poised for Exit is the weekly show for business owners and advisors who want smarter strategies, stronger companies, and better exit outcomes. I'm your host, Julie Keys, award-winning certified exit planner, speaker, and lifelong entrepreneur, helping private company owners build value, plan well, and exit on their own terms. Every exit has real stakes. That's why Poised for Exit brings in top experts to share practical insights that help owners grow value, reduce risk, and create stronger outcomes. Now, let's jump in.
This is Andy Kosumba, president of Calhoun Companies. We understand that selling your business is a big deal. Since 1908, Calhoun Companies has been confidently connecting buyers and sellers. From small family shops to large corporations, our expert brokers walk with you and guide you every step of the way, whether you're looking to retire or simply for a fresh start. If you're curious what your business could sell for, or if you're ready to start the process, head to calhouncompanies.com for a free and confidential consultation. Calhoun Companies, the confident choice for buyers and sellers.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Exiting your business is a big deal, both financially and emotionally. I'm John Marquet, Certified Exit Planning Advisor with TrustPoint. We help business owners transition smoothly on their terms. Our focus is on maximizing value, minimizing stress, and giving you confidence in what's next. Whether you're selling or passing the torch, we make the process seamless. Start planning today at trustpointinc.com. That's trustpointinc.com.
Thinking about selling your business in the next few years? Don't wait to start planning. I've seen too many business owners wait too long and regret it. Freedom Financial Partners are financial advisors who specialize in exit planning for business owners, helping you reduce tax surprises, protect what you've built, and quantify how much you need from the sale. Their proven process helps you think beyond your business so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. The longer you wait, the fewer options you may have. Download your free financial readiness assessment today at ffpforme.com/exit. That's ffpforme.com/exit. Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We are here today with Marie Liotta, a CPA and wealth strategist with Gallagher Insurance, and Mike Winn, who is a CEPA like me and financial advisor with Chartered Wealth Partners. And I am so excited to have you guys on this show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We are going to be, like I said in the show opener, we're going to be sharing a tax strategy today that significantly impacts high net worth individuals and business owners. And so I'm really excited to get into this content because it's content we've not shared before. And like I said in the show opener, it's probably a strategy that's very little known, right? And I know that the two of you are working really hard at getting the word out and collaborating on this with clients. And so maybe we could just start with that. Could we just have the two of you maybe share just a bit of your background and then how you're working together and changing the world for people like this?
Yes, my background comes from the exit planning area, which is where Julie and I met through our CEPA designation. But I met Anne-Marie about a year ago through a mutual friend, and she was working on a very unique strategy that initially started with law firms, which I thought was very interesting, but it wasn't really part of my practice. However, early this year, I got a phone call from a client who has an industrial business in Los Angeles, and he had a record year because he's involved with, data center expansion, and he was trying to lock and incentivize 60 key employees, keep them in their seats. So I called Anne-Marie back, and we hadn't talked in about 6 months, and I said, Anne-Marie, you had told me about this unique strategy you deployed with major law firms. Does it also work for pass-through entities like business owners? And she goes, Mike, it actually works for a wide range of clients. We've done it for law firms, accounting firms, hospitals, medical groups, all types of different business owners. So I set up a meeting with this client. Anne-Marie zoomed in from New Jersey. She blew us away with the strategy. And since then, I've now been working with a wide variety of my clients. Anne-Marie was just out here in Los Angeles, spent 3 days with me, meeting with all types of clients that this applies to. And the product that they use, which you'll get into today, which I heard about 15 years ago, from my opinion, wasn't really mature yet. Over the last decade, that's completely changed. And I think Anne Marie's going to touch on that this morning. So now I'm running two businesses, my exit planning and this very unique strategy that you're going to hear about today.
And it sounds like it marries very well with the work you're already doing as a wealth manager. So maybe Anne Marie, you could give us some of the technical background on the POLI and how it was derived, maybe.
Sure. So I spent 23 years as a practicing CPA before I crossed over to the wealth and tax strategy side. And honestly, those two halves of my career are now the whole story of how this was created. As a CPA, I sat across the table from successful people every single year, partners, physicians, business owners, and I watched the same thing happen every year. They did everything right. They worked hard. They saved. They maxed out every qualified plan possible. And then I'd hand them their return and watch the taxes take the biggest bite out of everything they built. And so as their accountant, I felt I could only do so much after the fact. And that is what made me change from being the practice lead of the private client services group at Ernst & Young, where I led the individual practice in Philadelphia, to where I am now at Gallagher. I'm the national wealth strategist, and my entire practice is built around solving that one problem that I could not solve in that other capacity. So I work with flow-through entities, S-corps, partnerships, but I do have designs for C-corps as well. Law firms, physician practices, hospitals, family businesses, on a strategy that was developed called POLI. It stands for Partnership-Owned Life Insurance. So, my CPA brain never really turned off. And I'm always, when I first learned about this design, I was sitting in the CPA seat still. And I was at Ernst & Young, and a lot of the partners were, again, asking me, of many law firms were asking me, we've maxed out our qualified plans. What else can we do? And there was an insurance strategist that was part of M Financial, which is a producer group, who was pivotal with working with this very large law firm, one of the largest ones in the country, to design a solution that will allow for a law firm or these flow-through entities to offer a voluntary plan for participants that feel this pain. All this money that I have, all my wealth, I'm paying away to the government, or I'm paying away at my death with estate taxes. And there's only so much I can do while I'm at this firm, because I'm maxing out my qualified plans, and through a flow-through entity, there's not much I can do, not much else I can do.
Right.
So that's how it all started. And at a very high level, just to get into the weeds of this, it allows an individual who is offered this voluntary plan as part of this group to contribute after-tax dollars into a special purpose vehicle that is a partnership for tax purposes, creditor protected, bankruptcy remote, and separate and distinct from the company that is offering it as an offering, because there's no cost to the company. Other than maybe their time exploring it.
Sure.
But there's no monetary cost or expense from that company. This is truly a participant-funded plan. After-tax dollars going in, and what's important is what it's being invested in. But I'm going to speak about that in a second. So it grows tax-free, and then it comes out to them tax-free. And depending on how it is structured, it can also be growing and compounding tax-free out of their estate. So the structure, the engine that makes this so attractive is the product that we are using. Many of your listeners have probably heard of COLI, which is corporate-owned life insurance.
Sure.
Right? And it allows a corporation to use a life insurance chassis typically for informal funding of something. I have a deferred compensation plan, or I have a strategy that I don't want to have formal funding like an ERISA plan, but I want informal funding where there can be cost recovery. And life insurance in and of itself has a code section 7702 of the IRS code, that says for a permanent product, the cash value of the life insurance product can be invested, grow tax-free, and can access tax-free by the owner through policy loans and withdrawals as long as the policy is in place.
So the IRS has blessed the POLI plan.
Well, it has blessed the life insurance product
Sure.
that
Right.
is the engine of the POLI
That is
plan,
the engine. Right.
right?
Got it.
So the traditional life insurance products that existed in the past for COLI are very expensive, high commissioned products that have high charges. And the investments that are available are either on the general account of the carrier or they're not so attractive. And there's a lot of cost to them. So when I bring up COLI to people or I start to educate on POLI, you see if their look across their face of like, no, no, no. I've heard this before. I've seen this on TV. Not interested.
Sure.
And that's what makes this different is the product. The product is private placement life insurance. It is a institutionally priced product with no surrender charges, different with the cost structure. And you have access to separately managed accounts on the carrier's platform that gives you access to high performing alternatives like private assets, private credit, debt, equity, and traditional products, but at an entry point that you wouldn't have it normally on the taxable account. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I was going to say private placement life insurance has been around since 1985, so it's not a new product. But when I heard about it 10, 15 years ago, I thought it was interesting to have a very thin life insurance wrapper around a cash value that keeps the fees down, but the larger carriers weren't embracing it yet, and the investments were slightly better than like a 401k. Well, that's all changed through Anne Marie's group when they went to the carriers, and she'll talk about kind of the evolution from this first major law firm. The carriers, the big carriers got involved, and now it's a much more comprehensive plan than it was 10 to 15 years ago.
And
Right.
this is just to be clear, this is an exclusive product of Gallagher.
It is. So that's a great question before we go into like more of the weeds and the mechanics. So once it took about 2 years to design this structure, because what we wanted, there was a few things we needed to happen, right? We needed these policies because the way we're designing them is no one's getting underwritten. We're doing guaranteed issue insurance on multiple lives, and we're aggregately funding the premium dollars so we can deploy them the most efficiently and effectively. So we had to go to the top carriers, Prudential, Pacific Life, Nationwide, New York Life, who offer guaranteed issue products through private placement life insurance, and negotiate pricing with them and the structure and the design. Because I can design this any which way possible, but if the product is not giving us what we need, or the pricing is, more than the tax, this is not going to work. Because what we're weighing is how much tax am I saving on growth? How much tax am I eliminating compared to what are the charges that I'm paying? And traditionally, life insurance it's done for death benefit, and it has charges associated with that, right? You're paying for a death benefit. Here, we're not looking at death benefit. We're focusing on the cash value. So we want this death benefit to be as low as it can be, keeping it as insurance, but having those charges to be as low as possible so the math makes sense. So that was important. We also wanted to make sure that the special purpose vehicle was as a partnership for tax purposes, and the way we were interpreting basis as somebody invests in this to have a tax-free return for them, because that's important. The participant, as they invest money, their investment will grow tax-free. But how do we make sure when they take a distribution, it's tax-free? And it's all about partner basis. And so how is that measured? So we got a tax opinion from PwC due to that specific structure. We had an actuarial analysis by October 3 and a reasonableness memo. We needed an insurable interest memo. So there was a lot of parties and it took about 2 years to design before we can fully kick it off. So we kicked it off at a very large law firm, probably one of the largest ones in the country. And then some members of that law firm went to a different law firm and said, we want you to do it here now. Because that's
was how long ago?
This was within the last 10 years.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's had enough legs, and it's been going on now that there's more and more money, and you can see success in the solution, and it is working.
Yeah.
And now firms that have implemented this now continue to implement this and add more and more partners and money because they're seeing the performance.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's why I want to bring that up, just because I wanted people to know this isn't a brand new thing.
This is not new, right?
It's proven. It's not known. That's the thing, right? It's not known, but it's definitely proven.
Top AM Law 100 firms that have implemented this. more than a dozen top medical practices that have implemented this. Hospitals are now exploring it. I mean, with hospitals, you have to stay into making sure you're abiding by Stark and anti-kickback laws, which I'm not going to go into detail for this call, and your listeners can always reach out. But people are interested because they're like, okay, this has been highly vetted. I'm looking at the other parties who've implemented it and scrutinized it, and it's worth worth my time. Yes.
The reason that I embrace this strategy personally with my clients and contacts is the credibility around it. Because Anne Marie's a Ernst & Young accountant. You've got a PwC opinion letter. You have major law firms embracing this. You have a lot of time that's been spent over a decade with the strategy. So when Anne Marie was here for 3 days, we met with a law firm. We met with the largest hospital in Southern California, who's a contact of mine. We met with some large business owners, some big family office groups that are really investing in the same type of investments that are now in this PPLI, but they're getting taxed every year on the gain. And this particular strategy eliminates the annual tax, tax-deferred growth, and then tax-free income. And the arbitrage is how low these fees are compared to the returns. And that compounding nature is what makes this so powerful.
I would like to make sure that we cover a few illustrations or, more real life cases. I know you've touched on a few, but I love that family office angle because we've got plenty of listeners who, are involved in some way in family office. Either it's part of their, enterprise, right, as a family business enterprise, or advisors who participate in some way with family offices. So let's speak to that. Let's speak to some of those high net worth earners who own companies, because we got plenty of listeners out there that would fall into that category as well. I want to make sure that our listeners understand who this can benefit, right? So I know you've talked a lot about law firms, you've talked about medical, but maybe we could
Let's talk about a closely held business.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a closely held business that is an S corp. So there's multiple members, or a partnership for tax purposes, LLC, LLP, and you have multiple partners, multiple family owners. And I'm doing this now for not only domestic, but a lot of foreign national companies, because a lot of foreign national individuals and companies have family owned businesses. Let's stay on that round, right? So I make an example. I have my own business. It's myself and my 4 siblings, and we are all partners in our family business. And we are generating multiple millions of EBITDA every year. And that money that we are making is being invested in a taxable account, and it's not protected from taxes. So is there a way for me to invest my money and my siblings to invest their own money, even if it's held in our own family trust, where we can set up this special purpose vehicle as an offering through Anne Marie's LLC, family LLC, where we can invest money from our trusts or from even our brokerage accounts into this that's invested in private placement life insurance, but not that we don't want to get medically underwritten. So is there a way for us to get guaranteed issuance? How many lives do we need? We need about 15 to 20 lives minimum.
Okay.
But there's only 4 of us. So what do we do?
Sure.
We also were looking for retention vehicles for our top talent. People aren't staying, and they're leaving due to, they're always looking for the bigger carrot. What can I do for them that is not something that they have to wait for retirement? So there's, you can put a incentive bonus pool together, or even a phantom stock pool together, where this top talent of individuals will be something that they will have the ability to accrue and receive maybe in year 5 or year 10, not something so far away that people don't really see its value, where the company, my partnership, would invest some of this money into private placement life insurance for the benefit of this top talent.
Yes.
When that top talent receives it, they claim the income, we get a deduction, right? And at the same time, I can invest my own dollars after taxes as one of the partners into this to grow and compound tax-free as well. So I'm meeting my goals for tax-free investing. I'm going to design this so this is funded maybe with trust assets, so it's out of my estate, or I'll designate a beneficiary that is not me for the benefit of the trust assets. And I'm investing company dollars, partnership dollars into this for the benefit of my top talent. The thing that's great with retention vehicles and the private placement life insurance is this. If you put $100 in and it's invested in funds like Millennium, Bain, Ares, Apollo, Golub, I can keep going, very high performing assets. If I wanted to do this in the taxable account, I would need 8 digits invested with like a 5-year lockup, right? Here for private placement life insurance, you can get in with $5 million invested over 5 years, like $1 million a year. So when you do it with a group, like with several partners or with, company assets, you can meet those minimums easier. So you don't have to invest your $5 million. I can invest $100,000 a year as a partner, and somebody else can as well. So there's lower entry points, and the lockup provisions are different than the taxable account. There's like quarterly lockups. It's not like the 5-year lockups, like the taxable clones of what we're investing in. But when the employees that you want to keep, when they know that the informal funding mechanism is invested in these high performing assets and the opportunity for growth of those assets, 9 times out of 10, they don't want to walk away. They're like, wait a minute, I may make a lot, they're deferring $10,000 a year from me, but I have an opportunity for great growth on that money. And I don't want to walk away from that growth. But let's assume a company does invest $10,000 a year for somebody. And now at the end of the plan, they made a total investment for me, the employee, of $50,000. But that money grew to about $75,000. When the company takes the $75,000 out of the trust from the policies and pays it to me, it's a deduction of $75,000 on the books of the company. But they don't recognize income on the $25,000. It's tax-free. It's life insurance. So they paid $50,000. They're getting a deduction for $75,000. That's an amazing arbitrage.
Yeah.
Right? So it's understanding and how to apply this code section 7702 and that inside buildup of cash value invested in very attractive assets and not having to recognize that income, but as a company being able to deduct that expense that you're paying out is huge.
No kidding. What about private equity firms? Mike, you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to say that every client of mine through my exit plan that has employees is always trying to find ways to lock and incentivize them.
Totally.
Whenever Anne-Marie starts talking about this, their eyes get big because it's a challenge for all successful businesses. But in addition, as she mentioned, the owners can also jump onto this aggregate group and do their own investing after tax. One of my biggest clients in Los Angeles, who Anne-Marie and I met about a month ago, they've got 3,000 employees. They've already got this unfunded phantom stock plan for like 100 people. But then the CEO, my client, said to Anne-Marie, so you tell me that the money I have in our taxable account at Fidelity, that we're investing in Apollo and Ares and these same type of high-performing asset managers, I can create one of these for myself and my brother and our family and do this along with our employees? And she said, yes. So it's a really unique, there's a lot of different variations on the design. But private equity firms are another great example. You have partners in a firm with 15 to 20 partners all making a lot of money through all their fund distributions of management fees.
Yeah.
They can also create this within the group. We had a meeting last Tuesday with one of my clients that owns a big private equity firm. So it also applies there. Those are very sophisticated people, which really understand the opportunity here. So,
and their portfolio too, with their C-level leaders.
Yes, but I want to be clear with private placement for a second.
Yes.
So private placement, you get this access to these great alternatives that are available on a platform of a carrier. And each carrier has a different platform, but a lot of them have a lot of the same funds available. But sometimes private equity have their own funds that they manage. Can they create an insurance dedicated fund and then invest their own dollars into it? No, that is a law that covers investor control. So private placement, when you are creating a fund that is, we offer it on a carrier's platform, it needs to be properly diversified. So no greater than one asset, no greater than 50% in one asset, no greater than 60% of two assets, right? Of fund, right? And the other thing is investor control. I cannot have a fund that I manage and make the decisions for of how it makes its money and invest in my fund through life insurance. That's not going to happen. So some private equity, they have to understand that. I've had conversations with private equity and they're like, this is incredible. Our clients don't have, we don't have to pay tax. Our employees are going to be high-fiving each other. I'm like, no, no, no. You can't do it for your own fund. You can create an insurance dedicated fund, but you can't offer it to your employees and your management team if you're making the decisions of how it makes money. So
Sense.
David Golub has an IDF. David Golub cannot buy private placement life insurance on his life and invest in the Golub fund.
There is one nuance to that that's unique. You could have a family office group that has some different managers they use that people haven't heard of. Maybe 4 people left Bain and created their own fund, and it's been performing really well for 5-10 years. That family can take that fund and create an IDF with that fund in their PPLI, but they just can't make the investment decisions. So you have a lot of these large families that are already investing in these same managers, but they're getting taxed every year.
Right.
This strategy completely removes that annual tax drag, grows tax deferred, comes out tax-free.
Yeah. And there are programs that family offices and investment managers, RIAs, they can create separately managed accounts for clients interested in PPLI. It won't work for POLI, but if you were working with a banker, like for example, if you were working with a banker at, Alliance Bernstein or JP Morgan and say, I love what you're making me so much money, but I'm paying a lot of tax on this. Because a lot of private assets, especially private credit, have ordinary income taxes. It's not long-term capital gains. And you say to them, I would love for you to eliminate this tax drag that you're creating for me. And they can create a separately managed account on their platform to manage the money for a client. And the client will not have a tax drag then on the investment performance. So that's important. That's great too. It can't be used with a guaranteed issue design, but individually, if somebody was interested in private placement, that's very attractive to people and their money managers.
And that would be, it sounds like it would be a collaborative situation that they'd have with you.
Yeah. There's not a ton of professionals in the country that have a focus on private placement life insurance. Private placement, and people are familiar with it in the insurance profession, but you need to have an investment from the company that you work with, or you have to be invested in it to have the designers, the actuaries, the underwriters, the back office, because this is not your traditional life insurance product that you're buying where your insurance advisor may sell it to you and you may hear from him once a year, if that. Here, you're getting a statement similar to the cadence of any kind of brokerage statement that you would get on any kind of private asset that you have.
Sure.
So there's a lot of due diligence and compliance that is required by the insurance professional. And that is why, after Ernst & Young, I went to Lombard International and I was the head of their advanced markets. They called me the U.S. Wealth Strategist. In Luxembourg, that was advanced markets, and I was the advanced markets person for the U.S. So after Ernst & Young and me knowing about what was being done for incorporating POLI, I wanted to master the product. So I worked at one of the top private placement life insurance carriers in the country, and I literally studied everything you need to learn about technically, administratively, everything about private placement and its laws. And then after 3 years of doing that, then I joined Gallagher with the team that was the pioneer behind POLI, CFG, an M Financial member firm. And I've been there for over 8 years now.
A couple of things I wanted to bring up. One is, Anne-Marie, we have a large public accounting firm we're in the middle of due diligence with. And one of the partners asked a question on a call that opened my eyes to a design feature that's very unique about this strategy. Because traditionally, when you buy a life insurance policy and you have cash value, when you pass away, the death benefit pays the beneficiary and the cash value is gone. Very different within the context of this strategy. So Anne-Marie, if you can touch on that question that came up, but also touch on why Gallagher, a $13 billion revenue, second largest insurance company in the U.S., acquired CFG, which is very, very unique. And then the last thing I would say is what I really like about Anne-Marie and her team is Many of the carriers will only work with their team on this, number one. Number two, they have a full group of actuaries under Anne Marie and design people and a service group to service this. So it's a fully integrated system that they have to service these kind of plans.
Okay,
Well, I'm going to answer your last question first because that
right.
one is very important to me. There's a lot of, well, first of all, when I was practicing as a CPA, there were a lot of bad actors in the insurance space selling products to clients that they didn't fully understand.
Sure.
And there's now, although they were the pioneers of POLI, now there's continues to be bad actors who are trying to state that they also can do this, but they don't have all of the different steps that need to take place with all of the different approvals we received and the opinion letters and the like. So I will say that, sometimes I meet with clients, new opportunities, and they'll say, "Oh, I've heard of this. This is, we looked at it. This is a no-go." I'm like, I have a feeling you didn't see the OG. You didn't see what we've designed. You may have seen something that looked and smelled the same, but when you opened the hood, you saw that the wrong products were being used, or it wasn't structured correctly, or the pricing was what negotiated with the carriers. And that's super important because some of the other practitioners may use a more expensive index universal life product. And I'm not opposed to that. If you want to incorporate financing, that may make sense. But for individuals or companies that don't want to bring in financing, private placement life insurance and the low cost and the opportunity for the investment access that you have, once people start to see the illustrations and the designs, they're like, okay, now I see how this is different. But Gallagher did hear about what CFG was doing, and they acquired them for that reason, for POLI. And Gallagher has invested a lot of resources to acquire the intellectual property behind POLI. So that says a lot about this, Gallagher themselves and about their support behind the solution that was created. But let's talk about the first question he asked is, maybe I could do this on my own. Like, why not I just do this on my own and have the same results? And it leads to the question of how this is beneficial when you do it as a group, and the question that individual gave to us. When you buy a private placement life insurance policy and you invest that minimum of $5 million, $1 million a year for 5 years, you have to get medically underwritten. You have to have medical justification and financial justification. And you're investing that certain amount of money, and the risk is on your life. So you're at the age that, maybe over the age of 55, but you still want to do it. You have the assets to deploy. Economically, the cost is going to be prohibitive. But let's say you still want to do it, and you invest the $5 million, you have a death benefit of $30 million, as an example, because we're going to make sure, we're going to calculate how much money going in on a single life based on where they're living and the correlated death benefit. Then let's assume now that he's really excited. He invests the $5 million, it's growing, it's doing really well, and then he passes away. And that $5 million turned into $7 million, but then he dies. Well, the $30 million is paid out to the beneficiary. That's it. The beneficiary, the policy doesn't last anymore, just traditional life insurance, it pays out.
Right.
When you do it in this plan, a lot of times we're looking for a group, we're doing guaranteed issue underwriting, and sometimes the lives that are financially participating may not be the lives that I'm using for insurance, depending on the average age of the group. So if I have a 65-year-old who's saying, I want to financially participate, I may say with my team of actuaries, we're not going to use your life for the insurance. I'm going to use these 20 lives that have an average age of 52 and are participating, but I'm not going to use yours. But you can financially participate and put in that whatever amount you want. So the example he said was, well, let's say I put the same $5 million in, and let's say I pass. What happens? And I said, well, that's the great thing. You put the $5 million in, and it's invested and growing. At your passing, the money stays invested. And we reach out to your beneficiaries and say, do you want it to continue to grow tax-free? You will receive this also tax-free because it will follow the basis of the person who originally invested.
Yeah.
That's what is so great, because this individual was at the age that it may not work to include him in the medical, in the group.
Sure.
But he's so he may say, why am I doing this? I may be close to retirement. You don't need to be part. After I implement this, you can retire and still participate in this. This is not subject to ERISA. This is a non-qualified plan. There are no RMDs.
I'm glad you
There's
said
no
that.
penalties. There's no penalties to access this before 59 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
There's no minimums or maximums. You can absolutely change your investment every year as if you choose. You don't have AGI limitations with caps. This is not this at all. This is a completely flexible, individually decided, based on participant investment. The risk of this, so we have the regulatory risk, 7702. Right now, it is a bipartisan supported ruling because it supports 7702 supports life insurance no matter the income level or the individual. So it's going to support every level of income in the country, all citizens. So we have that regulatory risk, like I would say, on the lower end. Carrier risk, right? Prudential, Pacific Life, Nationwide, New York Life. These are strong carriers.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the low end too. So what's the biggest risk to this, Anne Marie? It's investment risk. There are no guarantees. There
Sure.
are no floors. You
Right.
can lose your money. And that is the thing that I tell people. And they're like, okay, well, I can lose my money now in my 401k. Exactly.
Well, and there's timeline risks as well, right? And you want to make sure that that you got enough runway. I mean, we talked about that before. Mike, yeah, please.
That's a great lead in on the timeline you just mentioned, Julie. So we were in a
Mhm.
meeting last Tuesday with Anne Marie, one of my very close friends and clients that you know, Julie. He owns a couple businesses. One's got 400 employees, so he wants to lock in like 10 of them. But as Anne Marie explained this to me, he goes, God, I'd love to do this, but I'm 66. I'm kind of like too old. And Anne Marie goes, you have 4 grandkids, right? He goes, yes. He goes, you could put money in this plan in the group, you know,
Yes.
and it can be earmarked for your 4 grandkids out of your state, growing tax deferred, accessing the same high performing managers, and then they can pull it out tax free later. So, you know, you get some of these law firms that have, you know, younger partners, but they got some of these older guys that think this doesn't apply to me. It actually does, because you can utilize it for generation 2, 3, and 4. And that kind of is very enlightening to some of these older owners of companies and partners and things like that.
Yes. I'm thinking of someone in particular that's going to love to hear that.
Yeah, it's I've been on 50 calls with Anne Marie in the last several months, and I learned
Only
a lot.
50? I thought it was more than that.
It's more than that. He's
But it-
wrong.
But I've learned some nuances that are the ones you just described where the policy doesn't end when someone dies is very unique, because that's just not how people view life insurance.
Exactly. I know.
And I don't want people to feel like if they're retiring next year, their runway is short. Because again, like you could retire next year and still invest every year.
Mhm.
And this can be something that you're setting up exactly like for generation 3.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's a differentiator about POLI when it was designed.
Yeah, we've got an upcoming call with a group. It's an association of judges and mediators. They get paid a lot of money to mediate cases. One of our friends got us introduced. We're going to be talking to this judge. Well, the average age of these judges, they're making 2-3 million a year doing this mediation, but they're probably in the higher 60, 65 to 70. But when we tell them that you can earmark for grandkids, it's going to kind of open their eyes to the unique design of this particular strategy.
So, how about if we close the show with the two of you sharing with our listeners, if there are people out there who really want to learn more, like what's the process? Maybe the process of how to like reach out, have a conversation. So there's that. And then maybe before we explain that, you could just maybe give us a quick overview of start to finish. Like, I'm going to do this today. And then, you know, when is it completed? When
So
can
let
I
me,
say?
yeah, let me say, if the listeners have been listening into this and thinking about their own situation,
Mhm.
you're a partner, a physician, a business owner, you're tired of watching taxes take the biggest bite out of everything you build. The next step is simple, and it costs anybody, any company to explore it nothing. So a short overview, business owners, partners, a company, an S Corp, to offer a solution for that when people want to have maxed out their qualified plans and want to do more, right? Or they're looking for a better opportunity for investment participation. And, you know, what's offered to them now is just not giving them the investment diversification they're looking for. This allows you to invest through a special purpose vehicle that is creditor protected. If your company goes bankrupt or gets acquired, it is completely protected and separate from the company, has no balance sheet impact or cost to the company at all. Have the ability to access these alternatives with tax-free growth accumulation, and as long as you have basis in this investment, tax-free distribution, with also an additional residual benefit of accumulated death benefit across all the lives that are being insured. You should explore it. Reach out to me. Reach out to me directly, because every engagement starts the same way. As we speak to the leaders of the organization, typically it's not the benefits. It's usually the decision makers, people who have skin in the game. And we always do all of our work at no cost at Gallagher, all of my team. It's something that Gallagher has invested in. The feasibility analysis, exploration, marketing materials, education, iterations by my actuaries, that is no cost to see if this is even suitable and if there's interest. Because again, this is not like the company saying we're doing this. This is the company saying we're offering this. Does anybody want to participate in this?
So the exploration part and going through all the assessments and everything like that, what's that, 6 months or?
It's about 6 months, a little bit less than that. It just depends on, really, I would say it depends on the timing of the firm or the group I'm working with, because they have their priorities of their work as well. But we work, I could say that our work typically is about 4 to 6 weeks, but it's relying on them for who's interested in participating, educating people, seeing how much they want to commit, right? And then us doing the modeling. Right.
Exactly.
But I would say reach out to me directly and we have a conversation.
Absolutely. Your contact information for both of you will be in all of the different platforms as we push it out there and in the show notes. And then I believe too that you gave us a resource to share as well. So we will also have that available for all of our listeners who want to download that. Mike, you had a comment?
My last closing piece through my CEPA designation, which is, founders that are considering an exit 2 to 4 years out. What's unique, you would think in reality, why would I want to do this and commit to something like this? But when you think about it, what do buyers worry about when they come acquire a company? Are we going to be able to keep these employees that help this business grow and that we just acquired? So you think about it, to have this in place and show a buyer, hey, by the way, we've got this really unique plan set up in a special purpose vehicle outside the view of the company, and it's got a bunch of our key employees locked in, it actually probably gives it more value in a unique way. And I just think in reality, what I really like about this is all the credibility around Anne-Marie and her group and PwC and these major law firms doing this, which gives it credibility. But what's really happening here is you've got this thin wrapper of life insurance around a cash value. You're getting the opportunity to get access to our country's best performing asset managers, hedge funds, and a lot of private credit, and a lot of non-correlated funds that aren't correlated to the S&P 500 that you cannot access outside of it without high amounts in and lockups. That's completely eliminated with this. And some of these funds do 30, 40% a year inside the PPLI. Wow. And there's no tax on the growth. If you get clients that really sit down and listen to this, it applies to a very wide range of clients.
I love that. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on this show and explaining everything so well. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sure that this is going to be heavily downloaded, so I'm looking forward to the comments from our listeners. And thank you as well to our listeners. Love your loyalty. Please share this episode and join us again next time. Bye now.